Hello, thank you for joining me to hear Chapter 1, Scene 6 of Glory. And don't run away, you are in the right place, even though I'm holding a guitar in my lap. As you probably know by now, I like to put a little musical bumper, it's called, just a little bit of music at the beginning of each video. And today I decided to do one live, well, recorded live. It's kind of an oxymoron, isn't it? The most beautiful single chord progression. I don't mean a whole bunch of chord changes, just one. Listen. Makes me smile every single time. That's my musical minute for today. Now, let's get on with the book. All right. Glory is the name of the book. Chapter 1. Scene 6, Reunion. The weeks that followed were a blur. A system was put in place. People could come to the gate as early in the morning as they wished, but Samuel would not appear. He now sat on a stool under the shade of the feasting trees until after the morning sacrifice. The supplicants were given a number according to their place in line, and when their number was called, they would come to be blessed or prayed for by Samuel. The sweet smell of cooking meat filled the air. The offering coffers had to be emptied twice a day. Hophni and Phinehas grew less irritable, and Eli alternately wept and laughed. Yahweh, you are a very funny God. The people coming to the tent of meeting grew more and more different. At first, it had only been Ephraimites and people from in and around Shiloh. Now people of strange accent and dress began appearing. People from the northernmost tribe of Dan came. They were clothed in the furs of wild animals, wore closed-toed sandals, and spoke in a curious, clipped-off Hebrew. Samuel had a hard time understanding some of them. One day, a caravan of Simeonites arrived at the gate with camels. Samuel had never seen such a thing. He had heard of camels, of course, but had imagined them more the size of the sheep or calves he knew so well. What towering creatures they were. He was very glad God had not commanded his people to kill camels. Samuel's name was on the lips of every Israelite. They were calling him a prophet. He hardly knew what a prophet was. One morning that spring, Samuel's head jerked upward when he heard his name being yelled from across the courtyard. Sammy, Sammy! Toward him ran 5 children, 3 boys and 2 girls, familiar-looking faces in a sea of foreigners. Every aspect of their being cried, Ephraimite. Behind them beamed their proud mother, his mother. In the years since Samuel had been given to the Lord, Yahweh had graced Hannah with 5 more children. Once every year they had come to the tent, and once every year they had brought him a new tunic. Once every year they had hugged and kissed and cried. And once every year they noticed how normal familial feelings had diminished. They still loved each other, but in a manner far different from what one would expect between parents and son, siblings and brother. Hannah had given her little boy to the Lord, and the Lord had indeed taken him. Never was the change greater than this year. He still looked like their Samuel, inches taller as always. But this year, as he sat under the tree near the feasting tables, he was surrounded by swarms of people, children, gray-headed grandmothers, busy parents, and learned rabbis, all of them looking with hushed deference at the smooth-cheeked boy with the melancholy eyes. Sammy, Sammy, his brothers and sisters yelled as they ran toward his open-air retinue. Samuel slid off his stool and greeted them. "Oh, Samuel, name of God, how you have grown," Hannah said as she held him close and laid her cheek on top of his wavy black head. Sammy, Sammy, you're fameless, his snaggletooth little sister exclaimed as she tugged on his wide sleeve. Samuel rolled his eyes and knelt down to give her a hug. When he stood, he looked sheepishly at both of his parents. Hannah put her face close to his and said, Samuel, dear, what has happened? Everyone is talking about you. Tell your father and me. The family had just begun to jostle its way toward one of the picnic benches when "Number 27!" boomed out of a nearby Levite, and a stoop-shouldered woman with a cane pushed her way into their intimate circle, tugging a little girl behind. Samuel rolled apologetic eyes toward his hapless parents and turned to face the woman. The girl couldn't have been more than 2.5 years old. Her forehead and eyes were beautiful, but the bottom of her face made Samuel shudder. Saliva ran from a slobbery hole where her top lip should have been. Baby teeth jutted out at crazy angles like white lambs scattered across a hillside. Weeks and weeks of facing such spectacles had taught Samuel what to do. Close his eyes and pronounce a blessing. Whether God healed the child or not, this would at least move the fearsome visage away from him and make room for the next supplicant, whom he hoped would be less hideous to look upon. He placed his hands on the shy little head and said, Yahweh, heal this child. No sooner were the words out of his mouth than the girl bent over, clapped both of her hands over her face, and fell to the ground screaming. Her feet churned uncontrollably, causing her tiny body to spin in circles, a cloud of gray dust adding even more drama to the scene. The grandmother jumped back, pointed her cane at Samuel, and screamed, You did this! You did this! Hannah and Elkanah looked in horror at the tormented girl and their equally tormented son. Surely he had nothing to do with this. The woman cast down her cane and threw herself on the screaming child, pulling her into her arms and holding her disheveled head against her own tear-drenched chest. The girl stopped screaming, her breath heaving and her body shivering as the adrenaline ebbed from her system. Someone in the crowd gasped, Look! Look at her face! The grandmother glared at the speaker with the malice born of years of cruel taunts, now confused by the look she received in return. She pulled the girl's face from under her chin, and that's when everyone saw it. Not a slobbery black and red hole with runaway teeth, but 2 perfectly formed cherry red lips and snow-white baby teeth, all in a row. The cry that erupted from the circle of onlookers startled worshippers all the way to the other side of the tent. Screams, laughs, cheers, and yahoos arose in deafening cacophony. The grandmother forgot all about her cane and danced in jerky circles with the tiny girl. Mothers buried their faces in their hands. Fathers wept openly. Samuel's parents were neither the least surprised nor the least affected. They stared at the girl. They stared at the grandmother. They stared at their son. Their knees grew weak. They slumped to the ground and sat in the dust with their hands over their open mouths. There was much celebrating that day. The beautiful girl was paraded around and around and around until she fell asleep on any shoulder whatsoever, no matter who it belonged to. Elkanah and his wife and their 5 children had a hard time getting close to Samuel for the rest of the day. They hovered at the outer edges of the crowd, Samuel occasionally gazing at them with high, apologetic eyebrows. Long after darkness had fallen and torches were sputtering out, the family came together one more time. There wasn't much talk. Every time Hannah opened her mouth, so many words crowded in, she couldn't get a single one of them out. Sammy, 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 she finally whispered as she hugged his young head and swayed from side to side. Dear God in heaven, she found herself saying, her tear-streaked face turned skyward. I gave you my son. What on earth have you done to him? As a final concession to his original family, Samuel went to bed in their tent far outside the gates. They fell asleep like exhausted warriors.